5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
What do you think, Marge? All I need is a title.
You know, people may be confused at why this series exists. Why is it called Square of the Village Idiot? What is its purpose? Well, folks, today's subject material, today's person at the center of this video, is exactly why this series exists. I do these particular videos to make fun of people like this one, to criticize people like this one, and to call out people like this one, especially when they do stupid fucking bullshit like this. Essence of Thought has been a subject of the Square of the Village Idiot before. In SVI number 40, he was the subject because he wrongly accused me of harboring, quote-unquote, internalized transphobia, whatever the fuck that is, which he did without even knowing me because this was the first time we had met, and by the way, this was a complete lie, because I am not now, nor have I ever been transphobic, internalized or not. After all of the dumpster fires that surrounded the ACA and rationality rules died down, see SCI 39, I figured that things might get back to a semblance of normal. Stephen, that is Rationality Rules, got back home, he made one video that was a direct response to the controversy, and he seemed to compare himself to Galileo, which did not go over very well, but then he released his correction video and things seemed to be mostly fine, aside from Essence of Thought not liking the correction video. Well, you can't always please everyone. But apparently that was not the end of it. As demonstrated by my own interaction with Essence of Thought, anyone who does not agree wholeheartedly 110% with his trans rights agenda is to be labeled as some sort of transphobe, which is to be like the kiss of death in today's cancel culture. Essence of Thought waded into this debate claiming that Rationality Rules had made a transphobic video, and when people such as myself, for example, attempted to defend Rationality Rules in any semblance, we were slammed with various anti-trans terms. This was war, after all.
I'm done with being fucked around. Not just by Woodford, but by his friends.
A very popular YouTuber named Rachel Oates had an extended conversation on Twitter with Essence of Thought, and she summed up the conversation on an unlisted YouTube video, of which we'll see clips here. In her response video, Rachel accused Essence of Thought of lying about her, talking down to her, strawmanning her, and gaslighting her, just to name a few things. In video excerpts provided by Rachel Oates in her video, Essence of Thought first blocked Rachel on Twitter, then continued to comment about the situation. But at this point, Rachel could not follow the conversation or defend herself, and was basically limited to screenshots. Then, Essence of Thought went onto YouTube to double down on what he said. Now, Rachel states several times in her unlisted video that she was being overwhelmed by all the stress of the situation. First, all the stress surrounding the Faithless Forum in April, and then all the stress of defending Stephen during the backlash, then the stress of dealing with all the backlash online, including attacks from Essence of Thought. So recently, within the last roughly 2 weeks, Rachel posted a video linked to her Twitter account, where she appears to have harmed herself.
After months of lies and bullying, Rachel broke. She posted a video in which she was profusely crying, with blood trickling down her arm from self-harm, just as a means of getting Ethel to recognise the harm and abuse that her and her ilk were causing. Rachel wrote, "I don't want to post this, but I don't know what else to do. I don't want sympathy. I want Ethel to be held accountable for their actions and realise what they're doing. I need an apology. I'm lost and hurt and angry and sad and confused and terrified." You see, Ethel, Rachel just wanted to be left alone. She said for months on end that she isn't interested in athletics, but that she won't denounce me simply because you're bullying her to do so.
It appears that this video was taken down, which is understandable. However, rather than backing off, rather than admitting that the rhetoric had gotten a bit overblown, rather than perhaps admit that wrong things had been said, Essence of Thought posted this tweet. Not only does Essence of Thought triple down on Stephen Woodford being a transphobe who wants to violently strip trans people of their human rights, but he accuses people who support Stephen of lying, of abusing trans people, and basically being a cult of transphobes. Sounds really diplomatic, like he's really trying to reach out to the other side, except then we get to that last line. Quote, "Do the world a favor and exit it." Unquote. You know, I have had bouts of depression in my life so severe that I've heard the little voice inside telling me, "You'd be better off if you were dead." That same voice made it abundantly clear that no one cares about me, my family and friends are not close, and no one would miss me if I was gone. Have you ever tried to figure out how long it would take for someone to notice that you had died inside your home? I have. The suicidal taunting and stuff that happens with depression and other mental health conditions is a real thing. And the way I've kept myself out of it is that I have a master's degree in psychology and another one in counseling. And I recognize the thoughts and taunts for what they are. Temporary. But through both education and experience, I have trained myself to resist the thoughts during my depressions, and I have help. What about those who are not trained, or those who do not have help? The World Health Organization states that in 2016 there were roughly 10.6 suicidal deaths per 100,000 people worldwide. Essence of Thought's channel currently has 31.2 thousand people, meaning that Essence of Thought just told someone to do the world a favor and exit it in front of 3 or 4 people who might be more inclined to do it. Let me make this absolutely crystal clear. It is never fucking okay to tell someone or imply that someone should kill themselves, ever. But Essence of Thought was not quite done yet. You see, after all of this, after he suggested that people, including Rachel, including myself, might think about offing themselves, he was then confronted by what he had said, and the fact that Rachel had in fact produced a video where she had visibly harmed herself. Essence of Thought's reply was, to claim that Rachel was hiding behind self-injury to avoid perhaps the hard questions or criticisms regarding her standing up for Stephen Woodford. Of course, all of this gets out to Twitter, and the entire thing blows up with people against Essence of Thought calling for him to be deplatformed or at the very least reported for cyberbullying, and Essence of Thought accusing them of attempting to silence a trans voice or perhaps the entire trans community. It depends on how big this person's ego is at whatever moment he is responding to whatever on the internet. Unlike others who implore their followers not to go to another site and leave comments and such, I will not do so. First, I don't think it matters much. Second, it does not matter what I say to you. If you're going to go over there, I will not be able to either push you there or stop you. In my own case, I intend to see one final video from Essence of Thought's channel. After that, I doubt he will ever get any other activity from me. On the other hand, I have a lot of kindness and support for Rachel Oates, and I hope she gets better soon and comes back to the internet when she feels ready. We can wait for her to recover. I also like and support Surus, as well as Mr. Atheist, who is doing a 4-part series on this whole kerfuffle. Please feel free to go watch his videos. Again, because in this environment it has to be said, I disagree with people's positions, arguments, and stupid statements. I do not disagree with them as people, and if anyone were to threaten them or our community in general, I feel it would be my obligation to stand up and defend the person or the community that is being threatened. However, this does not mean that everyone who cries "threat, threat" is actually alerting us to a real threat. Essence of Thought yammers about people wanting to destroy the human rights of trans people because there is controversy over trans women in women's sports, conveniently forgetting that participation in any sports team or league is a privilege, not a right. There is a difference. Meanwhile, idiots such as Jonathan or Jessica Yaniv are a real threat to the trans community, taking salons to a human rights court because the employees will not give Jonathan a Brazilian wax, taking pictures of himself in women's locker rooms, asking about or making sexual suggestions to underage girls, and attempting to be involved in a children's pool party, all while claiming to represent the trans community. Perhaps Essence of Thought should get his priorities straight. Some people have called for trans activists to actively police the trans community, to actively work to weed out the bad apples, as it were. Those people who do damage and then hide behind the label of the trans community, or do damage to the trans community as a whole because they represent themselves as voices for the transgendered community. I have taken up the challenge of actively protecting the trans community from threats. One such threat is Jonathan or Jessica Yaniv, who is a sexual predator preying on children in the Vancouver area and assaulting women business owners with his grievance that he is not able to get a Brazilian wax done because he's a woman. Then there is Essence of Thought, who uses violent and bullying tactics against people while protesting against violence and bullying. If anyone does not fully agree with what he spouts off with, then they may as well be full-throated members of the opposition, and they must be attacked with the same fever and fervor, even if the offender is simply defending a personal friend. In 1954, there was a similar fervor against communist subversion in a number of areas of American society. Individuals within the government took up the case against these subversives. However, while they were later proven right on the facts of the matter, the manner in which they went about trying to prove their case was out of the bounds of decency, politeness, good manners, and decorum. By 1954, their opponents had heard enough, and they confronted the Wisconsin Senator Joseph McCarthy. So I say the same to Essence of Thought. You've done more than enough. Have you no sense of decency? At long last, have you left no sense of decency? My answer is simple. Essence of Thought has none.